I've been invited to revisit a book that I wrote with Addison Wiggin back in 2016. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary, so the good folks at Okoff have asked for an update. They've given me a series of questions, so I'll stick to those as a framework for my comments.
Aujourd'hui, nous avons l'immense plaisir d'accueillir une figure emblématique de la pensée économique indépendante, Bill Bonner, écrivain, entrepreneur, investisseur, créateur des publications Agora. Nous tournons cette vidéo dans les locaux français de cette entreprise. Bill Bonner porte depuis plusieurs décennies une critique du système monétaire moderne. Son ouvrage « L'Empire des dettes », ici en anglais, a profondément marqué toute une génération d'épargnants, mais aussi d'investisseurs et de créateurs d'entreprises. C'est le cas de Jean-François Faure, le créateur du groupe Okoff. En 2009, il lit cet ouvrage et il pense à la création de son entreprise. Ce texte expliquait déjà comment la dette, la monnaie, pouvait plonger nos économies dans la crise. Bienvenue dans cette interview exceptionnelle. 20 ans après l'Empire des dettes, vos prédictions se sont-elles confirmées? Alors ma première question, Bill Bonner, en 2006, dans l'Empire des dettes, vous alertiez sur l'insoutenabilité de la dette américaine. Plus de 20 ans plus tard, la dette publique dépasse maintenant 34 000 milliards de dollars. Est-ce conforme à ce que vous imaginiez à l'époque?
Well, no, actually. The debt has gone up much more than we expected, and it went over $38 trillion last month. And that happened only 2 months after it went over 37 trillion. So I would say this surpasses our expectations. The debt is increasing faster than we thought it would. And as near as we can tell, it is going to continue. The big, beautiful budget abomination passed recently by the Republicans calls for more and more debt, with about 50 trillion by the end of this decade.
Aviez-vous anticipé que la création monétaire atteindrait de tels niveaux, notamment après les crises de 2008 et de 2020, avec des politiques de taux zéro et de quantitative easing massif?
Well, no. QE was an invention of the Japanese. We were only dimly aware of it back then. But it was just another way to describe money printing that we were very much aware of. Likewise, we never imagined that something like COVID would come along, nor did it occur to us that the federal government would go crazy by actually shutting down the economy and trying to make up for real output with fake output. That is, with those stimulus checks or stimmies. They sent them out to everyone, whether they were in need or not. Whether they were working, didn't matter. These bailouts and giveaways were like nothing we had ever seen before. And in the space of barely 2 years, they added $6 trillion to America's national debt. What was particularly galling about this is that it was done by someone who is supposedly a conservative. But he actually brought the economy to its knees as no president had ever done before, and printed up new money, more new money than had ever been printed before.
L'Empire américain tient toujours debout, malgré sa montagne de dettes. Selon vous, est-ce la preuve qu'il peut encore durer longtemps, ou bien le dernier acte avant la chute?
Well, you're asking about timing, but we didn't know 20 years ago how long it would take to bring the U.S. empire down, and we still don't know. The typical empire only lasts about 250 years. America will celebrate her 250th anniversary next year, and most people will think she is still going strong. In our view, however, the decline began around about 1999 and has already been going on for 25 years. Things happen faster than they used to. So maybe the big crash will come within, say, 10 years or maybe 25 years. But there will be reforms and new currency systems and all the things that elites do to try to hold on to power as long as possible. The Roman Empire, for example, lasted another 376 years after it peaked out. Some of those years were pretty rough, with civil wars, inflation, slavery, and depression, and all the other things that Gibbon recounts. But they weren't all bad years. And a lot of people lived tolerably well all over the empire.
Vous avez souvent comparé les États-Unis à Rome ou à l'Empire britannique. Voyez-vous aujourd'hui des signes tangibles de déclin américain?
Oh yes, we see signs of decline all over the place. Increasing corruption, for example. The president is now openly profiting from his time in the White House. So are a lot of other people who are able to buy influence and get special information and special treatment. There's also much more of an emphasis on military force as a way of dealing with disputes. The U.S. is bombing foreign countries. It's sinking foreign ships. It is rounding up people and sending them home. It is even sending U.S. troops to American cities. This sort of muscular approach to problems is typical of late-cycle empires. Also, the system of checks and balances, which limited executive authority, seems to have been dismantled. The House of Representatives, which is responsible for all spending issues, is no longer meeting. When will it open up again? We don't know. But it appears that Donald Trump is functioning more and more like an emperor, not like an elected official. How far this will go, we don't know.
La suprématie du dollar est aujourd'hui contestée par les BRICS, le yuan, voire les crypto-monnaies. Pensez-vous que son hégémonie soit vraiment menacée?
Well, there's no doubt that the dollar will have to give way to other currencies eventually. Already, central banks are turning back to gold as their primary reserve money. China is the biggest trader in the world, and it's doing deals in yuan. And recently, the BRICS did get together to talk about new currencies. These foreign currencies do not like the way the U.S. has used the dollar as a weapon. It seizes dollar accounts. It prevents trades it doesn't like. It robs the rest of the world by continuing to inflate away the dollar. At the present rate, a foreign dollar holder can expect to lose at least a third of his money over the next 10 years. More likely, it will be much more. So, of course, the nations of the world will find alternatives.
Vous recommandiez déjà l'or et l'argent comme protection contre la monnaie fiduciaire. Avec le recul, considérez-vous toujours que les métaux précieux sont les meilleurs remparts pour les épargnants?
Yes, we have been believers in gold for a long time. It is not, however, something that we would use to speculate. When gold gets hot, buyers tend to think they will get rich by buying gold. The price goes up and they think they're geniuses. But then gold becomes just like crypto stocks, a speculative asset. And when these speculative assets go down, gold goes down too. Remember too that gold went down for 20 years after 1980. Gold investors got hammered. But we don't believe in investing in gold or speculating in gold. We just hold gold when other assets are too expensive.
Comment imaginez-vous l'avenir de la monnaie avec un retour à l'étalon or, une généralisation des monnaies numériques de banque centrale ou une autre forme d'évolution monétaire?
Well, I suspect that there will be a lot of experimentation and that most of the experiments will go bad, as they always do. Some form of digital currency seems almost inevitable. After all, money is just information, and the best way to keep information today is digitally. But I have no idea how it will actually work.
En tant qu'investisseur et écrivain, quelles leçons personnelles tirez-vous de ces 20 dernières années de crise, de dette et d'illusions économiques?
I think the most important lesson is humility. No matter what we think, no matter how right we are, it will never be more than part of the story. We look for patterns of the past to give us a hint about the future, but there are a lot of patterns. They're competing, overlapping, and conflicting patterns, and often they are misleading. That is why we try to stick to the biggest, most fundamental patterns we can find. We are born, we die, empires rise, they fall, markets bubble up, and then they go bust. We just try to figure out where we are, grosso modo, in the process, and keep in mind that we might be wrong.
Si vous deviez réécrire l'Empire des dettes aujourd'hui, qu'est-ce qu'il y aurait en plus? Est-ce qu'il y a des phénomènes récents que vous auriez souhaité traiter à l'époque?
Well, I think the most striking thing that has happened is that the world seems to have become much more brutish. Public commentary, at least in America, has become vulgar and violent. And the institutions and customs that we thought would protect us can be easily swept away. The rule against killing people, for example, has been around a long, long time. But now, just claim that they are terrorists, and apparently you're free to pull the trigger. This strikes us as uncivilized behavior. Not just a decline in the Anglo-American Empire, but a degeneration of Western civilization itself. What that means, I'm not sure, but it probably is worth more attention.
Enfin, quel message voulez-vous adresser à la nouvelle génération d'épargnants et d'investisseurs qui découvrent aujourd'hui vos travaux comme je l'ai fait moi-même à l'époque?
Well, sometime in the last 20 years, it has occurred to me that the system of government that we take for granted is not what it appears to be. It's not benign, it's parasitic. Elites get control of government and they use it to extract wealth and power from the common people. They claim to be protecting themselves from foreigners. They claim to be giving the people more wealth. They claim to be regulating and controlling the outside world for the safety and enjoyment of their citizens. There is, of course, some truth to these things. The slave master wants to keep his slaves in reasonably good health. He needs it for the productivity of the enterprise. But the fundamental relationship is fraudulent. In America, we say we have a government by the people, for the people, and of the people, but it's not true. We have a government of insiders, for the insiders, and by the insiders.
Merci beaucoup Bill Bonner pour cette conversation rare et précieuse.
Thank you.
20 ans après l'Empire des dettes, votre lucidité reste intacte et vos avertissements plus actuels que jamais. N'hésitez pas à vous offrir l'Empire des dettes. Il y a une nouvelle édition qui s'appelle le Nouvel Empire des dettes. Vous y trouverez sans doute des réponses aux questions que vous vous posez. À bientôt.